Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Brian Callahan met with the media today before the team hit the practice field in preparation for Sunday's game at Nissan Stadium against the New England Patriots. Callahan saying Will Levis will throw today at practice. They will continue to monitor his progress throughout the course of the week before making a determination on Sunday's game. Callahan also said cornerback L'Jarius Sneed is week to week and running back Tyjae Spears is day to day, but likely to practice today at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Around the NFL, you've probably seen by now the Colts benching quarterback Anthony Richardson in favor of Joe Flacco moving forward. The Colts visit the Vikings on Sunday. Keeping it in the division, Texans wide receiver Stephon Diggs' season is over. He suffered a torn ACL in the win over the Colts on Sunday. Houston visiting the Jets on Thursday night. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have traded offensive lineman Cam Robinson to be the new starter at left tackle for the Minnesota Vikings, who lost Christian Darrisaw to a season-ending injury last weekend. Also, the Baltimore Ravens acquiring wide receiver Deontay Johnson in a trade with the Carolina Panthers. World Series tonight, it is Game 5. The Yankees taking on the Dodgers, L.A. with a 3-1 lead. 7:08 the first pitch at Yankee Stadium. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. Next hour, we'll be joined by Jordan Dajani, and there's a lot of NFL news to get to, for sure, that we're going to talk to him about. And, of course, today we're going to be talking about the Tennessee Titans, but also we're going to be talking about the NFL quarterback development process as a whole. But first, we're now on Wednesday, and we have yet to talk about college football, Blaine. So I'm putting it right at the top of the show because Texas barely beats Vanderbilt here in Nashville, 27-24. Texas A&M utterly dismantles LSU in the second half, 38-23. And Alabama pitches a shutout, which was a slow-moving shutout against number 21 Missouri, 34-0. So
without Cook,
pretty much. I mean, he wasn't even really a factor when he played, but
his ankle there. Yeah.
At the end of the day, a good weekend of college football in the SEC, and let's start with LSU, Texas A&M. LSU now is in a must-win elimination game against Alabama, which is going to come in 2 weeks, but they're going to have the home game, so huge game for them. But Texas A&M, a lot of people I remember when the SEC meetings were here in Nashville, and a lot of people were talking about Texas A&M as a dark horse candidate. And right now, they are undefeated in SEC play and 7-1 on the season. Texas A&M looks legit right now.
Yeah, I mean, they have only lost to Notre Dame. That was the beginning of the season. And they out-physicaled, I think I was watching when I was doing my research, against Florida. They really got heavy in the trenches, and the change of quarterback, Wegman to, yours truly here at NBA, Reed, Marcel Reed, Coach Reed's son there at quarterback, kind of with the change of system, a little bit change up in the game. Actually worked. I was astonished, that they weren't prepared for him. But that kind of changed everything. I think he only had one deep pass that was really complete. The rest of it was all running. So he's kind of the caveat that kind of, stirs the pot and gets the engine going. They are a different team. I think they believe in him. This is a dangerous team right here. A&M, even to win it, the SEC. I think they're in great position to do that. So I'm always going to be cheering for local kids here. So naturally, if Reed gets to play a little bit more or even starts, I think they've won every game that he's actually played in. I think that's the ticket for them in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So, A&M, man, they better watch out. They were preseason, you said, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people's preseason dark horse.
That surprised me, though. Before the season, I wouldn't have said, especially with the first time as him and the head coach there anyway. He's turned around program. He won 9 games immediately.
I think it all came down to the trenches for everybody, and because I think they have the best duo of offensive line and defensive line play. I'm looking at their schedule. They got at South Carolina this weekend.
That's a dangerous game now.
Then 2 games, and then 2 weeks. They got a bye week. Then they play New Mexico State. Then after that, it's at Auburn, and then they host Texas as the final regular season finale, which you never know what that means for the SEC championship now. Like, that is a huge, massive game. And as we have seen, Texas continues to have certain struggles with Quinn Ewers as the quarterback. And we saw that up again at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt crawled back in. Diego Pavia put on one of his, put the team on my back kind of performances. Yeah. The defense was really good. In fact, I was talking to our producer, Sammy, yesterday, and she asked if I had heard about what Diego Pavia said during the game. And I'm actually going to toss it to Sammy because she has a Vanderbilt podcast. So I want Sammy to tell Blaine and the listeners what Diego Pavia said during the game.
Yeah, he actually got hurt during the game, came out. He's kind of been limping for the last few weeks. He went out a couple weeks ago, and so he went out again on Saturday, and Alyssa Lang had a sideline report, and she said that she heard Pavi on the sideline saying, "No, put me back in the game. I want to go back out there." So I was telling Zach, hey, he maybe needs to give Anthony Richardson some tips of some being tough, but he's a really, really tough player. He put up 67 yards on the ground. He had no negative yards on the ground and was still able to get it done in the air, too. So he's playing really, really well right now while he's banged up.
Yeah, it was an impressive performance. Of course, he had the interception that really changed the tide and kind of sealed the game for Texas. But, like, the throws that he decided to make in the end zone for the touchdown, where he just, split these defenders, was such
incredible.
It's an incredible throw. And, you have to give it up for Vanderbilt right now. And Clark Lee, a guy that people left for dead in the SEC, has really started turning things around. So you got to give credit to Vanderbilt in this game. As much as you can for Texas just holding on. Like, they held on to win that game.
Yeah, but, man, I tell you one thing. Texas they lost, I think, all the receivers are starters, or, at least 2 or 3 of them anyway. Man, they have some explosive players. I mean, at receiver and running back that I was like, woof. They get from point A to point B in 5 yards really quick. So, it was exciting to watch. What's the kid? Moore, I think is his name, of the receiver for Texas. Oh, my gosh. So they are an explosive team. So I'm interested to see how that matchup, now that they're in the SEC and they will be playing A&M. The rivalry there is somewhat, we're better than you, Texas, that is, than A&M. Yeah. And A&M has this mystique about them, like, no, we're big now, we're in the same conference as you now, guys. Or Texas is saying that. Let's see what we really are and stack up. So that was going to be a battle. But, man, tip the cap. Vanderbilt, man. Wow. Diego has made believers out of even non-believers there. Yep. And I'm talking about their fan base who, up here
and
we go
defense. Again. We got to give props to that defense. The defense, for sure.
And I think they were, even Texas was getting ball out quick. I got to give it to Texas, though, Sarkisian. He stuck with the quarterback Ewers this time. Even when he faltered early, it was some tip balls, interception. So, he didn't... he didn't have a quick trigger and he didn't move. So, because there were rumors out there that Ewers may just say, all right, I'm going to just get ready for the NFL draft if we're going to start tinkering with my playing time. Cloud and power by the starting quarterback at Texas.
How do you think the NFL would view that, though? If he just kind of did that. Because I would think they would view that negatively, because I also already think that I think he's a fringe first rounder. We're going to talk about how teams view quarterbacks and the so-called quarterback draft and all that. That's the draft within the draft and all this stuff. But Quinn's feet are a mess. Like, it doesn't line up, and then you're going to, because you got benched, decide not to, or because you're playing poorly and they put in Arch Manning, you're going to decide to focus on the draft. Is that really what the NFL is going to be looking for? I don't know. That's just a tricky situation to get into.
It would be red flags for some and some not, obviously, depending on his competition of who's all out there. He's got to be one of the top 3 quarterbacks coming out. So I think ultimately he will win out.
And apparently he got a lot of pushback from that line of thinking anyway, which is just, I don't know. But Vanderbilt is at Auburn this weekend versus South Carolina the week after that. Then a bye. Then they go at LSU, and then they host Tennessee here.
That's going to be big.
And that is going to be, I mean, Vanderbilt's a team where you could be like, they can go 4-0 down the stretch against those teams, or they can go 0-4. But they have a good chance of coming out of this looking pretty good on that 4-game stretch, especially if Tennessee continues their starting slow kind of woes. You just can't start slow in the SEC right now for the most part, which brings us to Alabama.
Wait, before you go there, though, just think the Vandy-Tennessee game could really determine, how about this, if Tennessee makes a 12-team playoff.
If they're not already eliminated before then, definitely could. And teams love to be a spoiler more than anything, right?
I think some Vols are getting a little nervous that 2 losses actually may not get you in.
Yeah.
You start looking at other conferences and seeing how this all plays out all around the country. 2 losses, they may still not make it.
So Alabama, they whipped up on Missouri, but it took forever for them to turn everything on. And that's been the story of this Alabama team, is slow starts, but they persevered. But they got to fix the slow starts during the bye. I don't know how you do it or whatever, because they're heading into a mini bye before they go to LSU. Then they go LSU, UTEP,
Bama, right?
Bama, LSU, UTEP, and Auburn at the end. I feel like I'm missing a game. But either way, you can't start slow against LSU. You can't start slow against Auburn. And if you go into the college football playoffs, you can't start slow there. So to me, I look at it and I say, Alabama's really got to come out of the bye against LSU and make a statement game. And to me, this is sort of a statement game with Missouri, because your defense played really well for all 4 quarters. It didn't matter who was playing or whatever. But also, Missouri's running a really weird elementary offense and not utilizing Luther Burden and
the receiver
in a correct way. They've really just kind of gone backwards from where they were last year offensively. And then I think, okay, the defense played really good for 4 quarters, but then the offense didn't really start really fast enough. So, you have to click. If you're going to be taken seriously in the college football playoffs, you have to start clicking at some point on both phases of the game at the same time and early in the game. And Alabama just has had a hard time doing that, except for in Georgia, but they couldn't sustain it. So this is not the same Alabama team. We knew it wasn't going to be the same Alabama team, but they still have a chance to really change their fortune and be kind of a wrecking crew heading into the college football playoffs.
I think it all hangs on Milroe.
Mm-hmm.
They must be able to run the football more often and then get him involved in the running game. And I think that helps him with his accuracy in the pass game. Because, if they try to just use him as a drop back passer, you get to see that he's not ready to do that on 30 times a game. It's just not happening. And, I think they got to kind of go back to the drawing board. It'll be interesting, too. If he decides to stay, will he still be at Alabama?
It'll be interesting to see, because we're going to talk more about college quarterbacks staying, going, what they need to do, what they don't need to do before coming into the NFL, because there's a big issue with how the NFL pundits view quarterback development in the NFL that I don't necessarily agree with. We'll talk about that and how that ties into the Tennessee Titans and Will Levis. This has been Covered 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
And Zika from 104.5 The Zone. Hear me every weekday 10 to 1 on the Buck Rising Show or on the call for Nashville Soccer Club. during our radio broadcast. Look, a new year is almost upon us, and 104.5 The Zone has only ever delivered results for its advertisers. I'd love to be one to help you do that. Digital or radio, we do it all. Titans, Vols, Preds, Nashville Soccer Club. We talk about it, win or lose. People listen and they engage, so the opportunity is right there. We've got some great deals too, some great incentives going on. Be sure to visit 1045thezone.com/epic, and I'd love to help you advertise your product in 2025 on Nashville's best sports talk station.
Hey, it's Ramon Foster, 1045 The Zone. Blending digital and also radio is one of the best things you can do. One, you get a lot of people in their cars that listen to us, and on the digital side, we can also show your products, talk about your products, see us, speak about you. So if you're in the business of wanting to be bigger, have a brand that everyone knows about, have me, Ramon Foster, or anyone at 1045 The Zone endorse you, and I promise you, it'll be exactly what you want.
Hey, it's Rhett Bryan from 1045 and of course Titans Radio, inviting you to join our team. If your business needs some promotion, needs some movement, I got 4 little letters for you. EPIC, E, everyone is invited on these offers. P, please contact your local representative when I give you this link and we'll get you started. I, include all of your pertinent information when you hit that link. And C, Cumulus Media. It's not just an audio company. We're not just radio. There are all kinds of digital products because you're watching this right now. It's gonna be epic. All you do is go to 1045thezone.com/epic.
What's happening is Ron Slade, known as Big Slade, all the things, man. Nashville born and bred, right here on 3XL 1045 The Zone. Listen, man, you're thinking about advertising with us with digital, radio, whatever it may be, all of the above under the umbrella. Get with us. Let me do it. I promise you. I'll get it sold for you. You nobody welcome me. Look at this smile. Look at that. You see what I'm saying? 1045thezone.com/epic. Go to that. Get involved. Let's make a joint party. Let's do a lot of little things like let's hold hands, run down the street, celebrate. All this little stuff. You know what it is. Let's go.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045, as we continue our talk on the NFL quarterback issues, I guess you could say, and how they tie to Will Levis. But first, we're going to go to the phones to Mike in Nashville, who wants to talk about the Guardian Caps. Mike, you're on with Blaine and Zach in Cover 2.
Yeah, how y'all doing this afternoon?
Doing good. How are you?
Pretty good. I just got a question. What is y'all's opinion on the wearing Guardian caps for high school football players? I know they require it in the NFL for practices, and of course, these high school boys are getting faster and stronger. And I was just curious on what y'all's thought is about that.
I'm all for player safety, I guess, and whether it's mandated or not mandated, if a player wants to wear the Guardian cap, let him wear the Guardian cap. I'm not big into football fashion because I know there are people out there who find them ugly, and that's a reason why they don't like them. There's people out there that care about jersey color combinations and fonts on the jersey and stuff like that. I'm just here for player safety, and if they feel, and like at least the Guardian caps the NFL use, they reduce the risk of concussion by 52%. So if that extends to the players in high school, I'm all for that.
Yeah, I would say, I was never into the fashionable look, but I don't know about making it mandatory, but I think they definitely have to make it an option, especially if you have somewhat, concussions, or if you've had one concussion, maybe they put it in that way where if you have to wear one. Especially depending on position. So I think it should be an option. Is that even an option for high school players? I didn't even know if that was. I don't really know much about high school football, so this was probably the wrong show for him to call in and ask, because I don't know anything about I graduated high school in 2003, so that was it's the last time I've cared about high school football. That would have been a better question for Lucas Panzico or Will Bowling in the mornings. But if they're available to students and students want to use them, I have no problem with it. That's ultimately where if they're required, I have no problem with it. So, that's just kind of where I land on that. So Anthony Richardson has been benched, and there's just been this large discourse around quarterback in the NFL, rookie quarterbacks in the NFL. And the more I read from either former players or the more I dive into the data, Blaine, and I look at some of these first-round quarterbacks, and I went all the way back 2008. I wanted to look at how many starts they got in college. I wanted to look at how many starts they got their first 2 years, how many starts they got until they were benched. And I'm looking at this list of quarterbacks from 2008 to 2024, and I'm going, man, there were some major reaches in some of these quarterbacks. And I think there's a kind of a multifold reason. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. First off, I think that the offensive schemes for these quarterbacks don't lend itself at a high hit rate because they're not very pro style to being ready at the NFL level. Okay, so there's one little tidbit. I think there's a lot of it is some of these quarterbacks are all athletic ability, and they've been able to get away with all athletic ability instead of working on the fundamentals, and they're not ready to be an NFL quarterback. Some of them don't have the experience that necessary. But like I look at a guy like Christian Ponder, for example, who had 45 starts as a college quarterback. In those 45 starts, we knew, at least I did, maybe you didn't, or you did too, but I think we all knew that Christian Ponder was not going to be the next great quarterback. But in a bad quarterback class, he was drafted in the first round by the Minnesota Vikings. And so in that situation, like some of these are just reaches, but I think it's more of a quarterback evaluation problem and a quarterback desperation problem when it comes to the NFL. These teams are thirsty for that quarterback to find the next quarterback, so they're willing to take a risk in the first round on a third or fourth round talent, which is that's not conducive to developing quarterbacks. So then it goes into this whole cycle, right? So that's kind of where I land, and I wanted to get your initial thoughts on that before we get that into Will Levis and everything. They always talk about, there's a separate quarterback draft. And that's kind of been the history of the NFL. And at this moment in time, with the way that the game is changing, with more, let's say, college style coming into the league slowly but surely, but yet you can't run that style because you'll need two quarterbacks because you got a running quarterback, with the read option and everything else. And in the NFL, it's so much physical, and it's not a big roster like you do in college. I think people are going to start, considering having two quarterbacks in a roster and maybe not valuing them as much. I know the player has the ball all the time, which is true, and it's the hardest position to play in sports. But if you're going to start rolling the dice and continue to reach at quarterbacks and going to miss, then to me, then you may say, okay, they're a piece to the puzzle. All I need to do is find a trigger guy, not some superstar guy. It'll be interesting. Everybody's going to take a different look at it all. If they are not a first-round talent, you cannot reach then and try to draft a quarterback. I firmly believe that all along, and it's proven out that that's kind of the way. And it's just proven more and more because everybody's organization really hinges on if you have a quarterback or not.
Because there's
have to be a great one. It could be just a really good one, and it's hard to find.
It's just there's a patience issue in the NFL by and large as a whole. I also look at it again, here are quarterbacks that were started and then benched before they reached a first full 2 seasons as an NFL starter. So, they did not start for some of these guys 32 games, other guys 34 games, depending on, the year you're looking at. Paxton Lynch, Trey Lance, Johnny Manziel, Anthony Richardson, Dwayne Haskins, Josh Rosen, Tim Tebow, E.J. Manuel, Bryce Young, Brandon Weeden, Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Blaine Gabbert, Robert Griffin III, Teddy Bridgewater, and Christian Ponder. All those guys started 29 games or way less before their team was either benched them or they were given up on either because of play or, in Teddy Bridgewater's case, really because of injury. But in that entire list, they're just dudes. These guys all coming out, except for maybe you can make a case for Robert Griffin III, and I think you can make a case for Teddy Bridgewater as being the best of the bunch. And listen, I was high on Anthony Richardson, but now I've quickly learned and evolved my stance on how to look and view at Anthony Richardson because everybody's trying to chase the ghost of Josh Allen. They're trying to chase the ghost of Patrick Mahomes. They're trying to chase the ghost of outliers. Those guys are outliers at their position, guys that weren't drafted in the top 10 that turned into something. Patrick Mahomes got to sit for a year. Josh Allen just never let any of the negativity bother him for his first 2 years, and they developed into something. Those are outlier situations for the most part. You're looking for the Joe Burrow, better or for worse, to Trevor Lawrence, those guys that can come in and have shown it in college, have extensive experience in college, and provide you a high floor. And a lot of these guys did not provide you that high floor, but people were just desperate for a quarterback savior.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, they think they have a savior. Now, most of these guys are all going into difficult situations. Let's keep that in mind. I can't say all of them, but most of them. So if you get to be a high pick, you're going into a situation where you're much needed. So that's where, hence, the force to put out there before you're ready. And then you don't have all the pieces to the puzzle surrounding you. It's kind of looking at, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
They already had pieces in place except for their position, the quarterback. Once they put them in position.
Stroud would be another one.
Yeah, and Stroud, right. Yeah, they already had the piece because they had all these high picks for 2 or 3 years in a row, and they did well in drafting those picks, and then they finally got their quarterback. So one thing I would say is, you can't force the issue. Maybe you do stopgap, but, some of these guys, if you don't grade them out as a first-round pick or a first-round talent, they could change the whole momentum of your organization, don't reach on these guys because most of those guys I would have never thought were, not all of them, but probably half of them first-round pick. I never thought Johnny Manziel was a first-round pick. People laughed at me when I said that he went first round. Then he busted because I thought he was a guy who needed to mature and learn the game of the NFL because his style in college was he kind of just ran around and made plays. It's kind of like when you see an elite quarterback in high school do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You go, man, and that's what he was really doing in college, which was fabulous. He had 1 year where he kind of sat in the pocket and went through his progression reads about half the season. And probably, I think it was his second or third year in the league. And I said, he's finally figuring it out. And then he went back to who he was for whatever reason. I didn't think Tebow was a big time quarterback. I mean, some of these guys, I just think some of it, the mystique of them and what they've done in college gives them the right to be drafted higher. But when it comes to pro, it's just so different. It really is, man. And you can't run around and try to be hero ball. And a lot of those guys are the best players on their team now. And so you get to see all these different running style quarterbacks coming. Like Melrose, a great example. Great athlete, big arm, can make every throw. But his accuracy and going through his progression reads, can he do it game in and game out and over again when you're not doing a lot of that in college, where sometimes in college you're throwing to the open guy. Well, in the NFL, you must throw them open, which is a whole different mechanism because you're afraid that you're going to make a mistake. He's not open. Well, no, put it where he can get it and make a play, and the other guy most likely can't. So that's hard to even get that part translated to these quarterbacks, and that's why it takes, sometimes 5 or 6 games before they even get acclimated to, the pro game. And it's a tough deal. The game is much faster. So you got to, see if they can keep up with the game speed and translate and be quick thinkers. There's a lot of things, let alone arm talent. We can look at Brock Purdy. Why is he so good? Now he's starting to have some, hiccups here because guess why? The talent around him isn't the same, all these guys aren't staying healthy. But he was a quick trigger, and he was going to be reading the coverages and go through his progression reads, so he was going to get rid of the ball, and he was a timing guy. So that translates to the NFL. So it's crazy. And what was it? Trey Lance was the guy who went in the first round who had all the traits but never could put it together. To me, if they couldn't put it together in college, what makes you think that they're going to be able to do it in the pros, even though they have all these elite level traits? And that goes back to what you've been talking about, Zach. The coaches feel like they could coach them. They can coach them up to get them to do these things, and then once they do that, then their talent takes over. Well, it's not that easy. You got to know what's in between the two noggins there.
Well, then that's why it's going to be more important than ever. I mean, I kind of look at it.
See, we haven't talking.
It will be harder and harder to evaluate quarterbacks from the outside looking in, I think. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the flip side to that, which I do think that some people are kind of missing the mark on when it comes to this whole discussion. So I got a couple of tweets and stuff that I thought was interesting. So here's one from Matt Miller. Scouts and agents are telling college quarterbacks to not leave school until they've started 2+ years. The NFL doesn't truly develop quarterbacks anymore outside of rare exceptions. Mm-hmm. I think that's a disingenuous take. Because really, the college is not developing them. Mm-mm. And that is a big part of a quarterback's development used to be college. And they're not getting developed properly. And listen, scouts and agents are telling college quarterbacks to not leave school until they've started 2+ years. Good. Because they need the experience. You need more tape on these guys than ever against quality opponents. And Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks said it's about 29.5 starts is roughly the cutoff, college starts against FBS opponents, to figure out what a quarterback is and isn't. Mm. And if they're staying that long, that's a good thing. It also allows them to mature a little bit more. It allows them to work on their craft a little bit more if they are dedicated enough to do that on their own. Because at this point, college quarterbacks or college programs, by and large, aren't really doing it. It's really are you doing as a person? So I don't think that there, again, is a quarterback. The problem is all these people that are mad about Anthony Richardson getting benched are the people who drank the Kool-Aid a little too much. They got drunk off the Kool-Aid. They got caught by an Anthony Richardson thirst trap. And the NFL, and because like Ian Kenyon, he also says the NFL is just ruining quarterbacks by not letting them work through issues and develop. It needs to stop. He quit on his team. That's a totally different issue. That when your center comes out talking about that moment after the game and is kind of like, I just basically don't understand what's going on, that's a totally different issue. But also, they can't just keep trying and throwing out a guy out there that's 44% completion rate, especially when they're 4-4. And it sounds like to me that maybe they're just kind of done with Anthony Richardson altogether based on comments today. The comments today by the coach is like, hey, he's our guy going forward, Joe Flacco. And then apparently Anthony Richardson says head coach Shane Steichen didn't necessarily explain why he won't be starting anymore.
Didn't necessarily.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, right?
What does that mean?
Like, did you not understand or did you not agree? Because like this seems pretty obvious why you got benched, man. Like, I mean, I don't think this needed a lot of explaining. And I think it's an interesting discussion
or
because
did he
everybody wants to blame everybody but the quarterback in a lot of these cases. And to me, like you look at Mac Jones. Mac Jones had 42 games as a starter before he got benched. At some point, is that a quarterback development issue or is that overrating Mac Jones, who only had 17 college starts? Mitch Trubisky had only 13 college starts. He got 41 games to try to prove he's the guy, and he couldn't do it. Sometimes it's on the quarterback that they didn't prove it. And listen, some of these are, like you said, bad situations, but let's tie that into Levis. They built around Levis this year, and he so far is not living up to expectations. But they're going to do right by Will Levis because when he's healthy, he's starting. They have said that over and over. And today, Brian Callahan talked about essentially the whole idea and process around patience and the quarterback and what goes into impatience and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, and we'll play those clips in the next segment of what he said today, but at the end of the day, he's going to have patience at least the rest of this season. And that is the way to go. And you need to just keep on rolling with it, and maybe he pulls himself out of it. Maybe he, becomes something that we haven't seen yet. That can still happen. That's not out of the realm of possibility. But at the end of the day, I think we have been a little brainwashed, Blaine, by Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes as a society and the success that those teams found in those quarterbacks. I think we've been a little brainwashed by the benefits of a rookie quarterback's contract, because you could still build around the rookie quarterback and they still don't develop or they still don't turn into anything. At the end of the day, it's an evaluation and desperation, supply and demand. And everybody's trying to find at least the guy, maybe not the Patrick Mahomes, but the guy. And a lot of these players that are getting drafted in the first round were clearly not the guy when they even got drafted.
Right. Well, it's funny. I want to take it back and make sure I'm getting this correct. You said that colleges aren't developing quarterbacks, but yet they should stay in longer to develop?
No, I said to mature, and they themselves would have to go out and take the initiative to develop themselves. Take time, say, hey, I need to go find a quarterback coach on my own. I need to go find like a James Palmer and work on my stuff in the offseason. I need to start taking the initiative
in college
myself while they're in college.
Right. Do you know how much free time they give the players when you're actually in college?
I mean, I don't really know, but I would assume enough because because we have seen players actually do it.
I don't know if that was in college, and if you do, you get a
yeah. Some of them were.
There's not a lot of time because of the requirement commitments that colleges are actually asking. Like, you don't get the normal when people are off on the summer break. They probably get 2 weeks and then they got to come back. So you have to figure out how to squeeze that in there, be ahead of the curve and knowing that you need to do these things. Most of them are not being honest with what they need to be doing because they're having some form of success. So they're thinking they're doing enough.
Yeah, that's why the onus is going to be on them to figure all that out.
They don't know that their coaches aren't coaching them. They're coaching them, but they don't know if they're developing them.
Yeah.
They don't understand that they're not getting developed. All they see is the results, just like all the fans see the results. That doesn't mean how much work he put in there, or was it all natural? Did the coach really, get the fundamentals down of what he needs to do, or did he do enough to just run their offense, which is you look to the sideline and you get the call just like everybody else, and then you pick one guy and you throw to him. So that's what I'm getting at. I don't know if that prerequisite is for everybody because I don't think you have that much free time. How many, watch this, how many players on scholarship you think do internships?
I would not even begin to answer that question.
I would be guessing zero.
Yeah.
I would be guessing zero. Right. See, so there isn't a lot of time. Even if it was, how many of them would actually go work?
Well, I don't know if it's actually.
So then now
I don't know if it's a time issue. I just would assume.
I'm talking about time management is what I'm getting at. There isn't a lot of free time.
Yeah.
So ultimately, as a player, you can get the okie doke. You can use your free time to go get a trainer if you have those kind of resources. Which do you
I'm not saying every quarterback has those resources, but the guys that are trying to get into the draft tie need to be working on that stuff, and a lot of people do. A lot of people do have those guys or have agents telling them to do this stuff. This isn't.
So they get
it's not accessible. It's not.
So you get an agent before you got an agent? You getting an agent your junior year?
I'm sure most of these people in the NIL do. In the NIL years, yes, everybody's got agents.
Well, that just happened.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. This is a new I'm not condemning the past. You're trying to use the past. I'm talking about now.
Well,
this is what they need to do now.
Yeah, well, I know that's what you're talking about now, but I'm giving you the history and the patterns of what doesn't change. You said that the coaches aren't coaching them up, and you said that they should be hiring coaches. Personal coaches.
Yeah, the trainers or whatever you want to
whatever you want to call that. Most of the time that happens when they're already done their senior or their last year, whatever that may be. Now, there are outliers, guys who have coached. I'm sure Caleb Williams had a coach. Well, guess what? That's why he's doing what he's doing. I'm sure
exactly. That's what I'm saying. More quarterbacks need to do what he's doing that are first-round prospects.
Right, okay. But once again, I'm going to say they don't have the resources or they didn't think the wherewithal that they weren't getting coached. They thought they were. So some of these guys are, intrigued with how many college players do you think, my coach, my position coach is the greatest position coach. I don't need it. Why would I go pay somebody? That I'm telling you what they think. That's
why I think the agents, most of the time when you hear the players that are actually doing it, they step in and they get something done. And we're way past the break. So let me go to the break. So when we come back, we'll continue the discussion and talk about quarterbacks. We'll talk about Will Levis and what this all means. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Hello, I'm Ashley Northington, Chair of Moving Forward of Middle Tennessee. The upcoming transit referendum is a game changer for our economy, business leaders, and the entire community. A robust transit system is essential for a thriving economy. With 54 miles of high-capacity transit corridors and 86 miles of new sidewalks, this plan enhances Nashville's connectivity, making it easier for everyone to get where they need to go. This isn't just about transportation, it's about economic empowerment. For business leaders, reliable transit means a more productive workforce. Shorter commutes boost productivity and job satisfaction, helping businesses attract and retain top talent. Improved transit also drives sales and supports local economies by making it easier for customers to reach businesses. The benefits extend to the entire community, connecting people to essential services, education, and recreation. This creates a more inclusive city where everyone can access the resources they need to thrive. Supporting the Choose How You Move transit referendum is an investment in our future. This is about creating a city where businesses can flourish, residents can thrive, and the community enjoys a higher quality of life. Join me in backing this transformative opportunity. Let's build a Nashville where everyone has the opportunity to succeed and to prosper. Visit the link in the caption to learn more about the referendum, how it will support our community, and how you can get involved. Thank you.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, 615-737-1045 if you want to talk Tennessee Titans and Will Levis. So, Blaine, we were talking about Brian Callahan. So I want to get to these Brian Callahan clips real quick. And the first Brian Callahan clip comes off a question asked by Kayla Anderson right here on 104.5 The Zone. Talking about setting up young quarterbacks for success in the NFL. So here's Brian Callahan in his presser today talking about the quarterback dilemma the NFL currently sees.
But I just think there's a couple of factors at play for some of the things that happen in the league. I think one, the quarterback position is the toughest position to play in sports. It's really difficult to play quarterback, and then it's even more difficult to play at a level that everybody wants their quarterback to play at. The top 4 or 5 guys in the league, everybody's searching for that. It's really hard to do, and there's some of the factors I think are, there's the economic factor of having a young quarterback on a rookie deal that allows for financial flexibility, so you can build a better roster and not pay the quarterback what they're getting paid now, $60 million plus now, as a part of the whole picture of building a team. I think college football and NFL football are so dramatically different right now. There's very few like pro style offenses in college. There's a lot of things about what those guys do in college that works really well in college, and then there's a whole different level when you get here. The biggest thing for me, like the protections, understanding protections, how to protect yourself, how to set protections, the pressures you see in the high leverage spots in games. So those are just some minor things, but there's also then now the patience part, which, as we all know, as I said the other day, there's not a lot of patience in pro sports in general, and sometimes it does take a little bit of time to learn all of those things. And then there's you're balancing winning with developing, and that's a very, very hard thing to do in pro football, probably in every professional sport, because fans want success and ownerships want success, and all of those things are all normal. They're part of it, but I think sometimes those things conflict and they run into each other, where you're trying to win because people's jobs are on the line. And then you're trying to develop because guys need development. So it's a really tricky thing, but I think it also stems mostly from the fact that it's just such a difficult position to play, and there's so much demand on that position that you have to play a good amount of football to learn all of those lessons, I think. So I could talk about this for a really long time. I won't bore everybody, but there's a lot of things that I think go into it.
So he talks about a few of the things, the economic factor, which I also think plays into all this, because everybody's paying mediocre quarterbacks now outrageous prices, like the Trevor Lawrence, contract. That really also sets you up for failure of overestimating your own process and evaluating quarterbacks, right? Like, you're paying these mediocre quarterbacks. Well, now you're drafting a guy. Well, he's turning into be a little bit less than mediocre. So you got to find the next guy, because you at least got to find the guy that fits in a 60% bubble. So, like, to me, Blaine, there's 20% of the quarterbacks in the NFL that are starting are guys that are for sure Super Bowl guys. They pull the team in the right direction. Then there's a big, large chunk of 60% guys that are guys that you can win with, but you got to build around them. And then there's another 20% where they're just trash. You can't do anything with them. And that's just kind of where I think the NFL's in this 60% bucket, and they're overpaying the quarterbacks in that 60% bucket, which kind of sets back the whole precedent. I think what that does, Blaine, is accelerate the thinking and overvaluing of the rookie contract market. Instead of, we got to find a guy on a rookie contract to build around and see if he's the guy, and we only have a short amount of time to figure out if he's the guy because we can't pay him $60 million.
Yeah, that's probably where you are with Will Levis, but we will continue.
We will continue to evaluate Will Levis. I think we already touched on the pro-style offense, the protections and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was interesting as well. Mm-hmm. And then the patience factor, I thought was interesting. There's a couple of things I want to hit on the patience factor in particular, and we'll do that after the break, because we'll also we'll hit your phone, 615-737-1045, but we'll also talk about what Brian Callahan said about fit and scheme when it comes to young quarterbacks. We'll talk about that coming up next. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons.
Hey, Tennessee, fall is in full swing, and Cool Ray's here to make sure your home is ready for all the fun in the fall season. And we've got some sizzling deals that will keep you comfortable and worry-free all season long. So ensure your family stays hydrated and healthy with free water quality testing, because nothing beats a refreshing drink of pure water on a nice fall day. And Cool Ray also offers a $149 main sewer line camera inspection. And right now, they also offer 15% off whole home dehumidifiers, as well as $500 off whole home generators. So let Cool Ray take care of your home so you can focus on making family memories. So call us today at 615-709-8699. That's 709-8699 and take advantage of these scorching hot deals. That's Cool Ray, your trusted partner for a cool and comfortable Tennessee fall. So visit coolray.com. But always, Cool Ray, keeping Tennessee cool, plumbing right, and always lights bright.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. You want to talk Tennessee Titans. And we'll be joined by Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports in the next segment as we go around the NFL and everything that he's hearing about Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, all these situations, all the trades. We'll be talking to Jordan Dajani about that. But first, we're going to go to your phones, and we're going to go to Mayor Ron, who wants to talk about Will Levis. Mayor Ron, you're on with Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach.
What up? Hey, Zach. Hey, Blaine. Let me first kind of set the bar of what is just my opinion, of course. Levis has never been a good quarterback, and he only had an average 1 year in college, in which he threw 24 touchdowns and 13 interceptions, but 12 of those touchdowns were to non-SEC opponents, New Mexico State, Louisiana Monroe, and NIU. And, Levis is a marketer. He can sell you the idea that he is the poster boy of fundamentals in a tryout. He has mastered what to do to look good in practice. He went to the Manning camp and asked about marketing. And when you put the game into game speed, professional time players are playing out there at a different speed, and you add them on, he becomes confused, and he can't really see what is the easy part of showing how I know how to play. And I hope he turns it around. The main thing to remember is what mentally this does to the rest of the team and their faith in the coaches. And moving forward and coming to work and doing a job is now what they got to do instead of enjoying what they love to do.
Listen, you're preaching to the choir right there. I mean, everything he said from the non-SEC opponents and what he was able to do against them and how the majority of the stats, how he had one average year as a NFL quarterback or as a college quarterback, fully agree. But I will go back to the fact that he has been playing in a pro-style offense. Now, he may not have been given the responsibilities that he is being given now or asked to do now. And I think that's the same for his rookie year here at Tennessee. I think he's being asked to do more. But I think if you listen to what Brian Callahan said in that last segment that we just had, where he talks about the pro-style offenses are lacking in college, that it's a whole new level and a whole new ball game when you get into the NFL because these quarterbacks have a problem understanding and setting protections, have a problem reading defenses. That's all the problems that we see pre and post snap with Will Levis. Like, I think that is a subliminal message sent to everybody saying this is what we're working on with Will Levis, and this is what we're going to see if this can develop over the rest of the season as long as he's healthy.
I don't know if it's a message because to me, I think when I listen to Callahan, I want to say, not based off his quotes there, but good coaches then say, okay, we pivot and we say, okay, we're not going to give him as much. We're going to make it as easy as possible so he can be successful. So where is that pivot in this situation? Do you do what, Kelly, offensive coordinator last year did, made it a one-read deal, and that way, if not, he throws the ball away or he just throws deep or he goes to his first read or he moves on? Like, to me, at some point, he must have come to the realization that this is maybe a little too much. This is slowing down his process of information. So while we have Cushenberry here, we have these veteran guys in here to help him along the way. So to me, good coaches then supplement if it's not getting done that way in another way. And and I'm not saying that's for every player, but if that's what he's actually trying to say there, I think then you need to find a better way to make it work because at some point, he doesn't even know that he's going to get a second shot at getting his own quarterback. See, so you don't know if this is your final, finale, and you only get one shot sometimes as a head coach. So it's really interesting. If he is saying that, then now he's trying to force it, and sometimes that can lead you down a road of the player not being successful. And to me, he should. If that is the case, and that's why he's processing, he's late with his deliveries, then you need to make it easier for him.
But how easy can you make it for him before? Before you realize that if he can never progress, if you never test him, let me ask you this. So do you think they've tested him enough that they should go easy with it, simplified with it the rest of the way? Then what do you do next year?
Well,
try again?
I don't think that's what he's actually saying. So you want to make it like it's just an A or B situation. I think
no, I'm not. You made the A and B. I am saying that I think what he's saying when in that first clip that we played, we haven't played the second clip, so you may be referencing something in the second clip. But when he's talking about the quarterback situation in the NFL and what they're not learning, I think that's some of the things that he's working with Will Levis. Right. Is the protections and the pre and post snap reads. And I think that's what he's wanting to see from Will Levis progress the rest of the way.
Yeah, but if he isn't, what is the pivot if you're the coach?
That's a new quarterback.
No, that's what the coaches who aren't very good, that's what they do. The coaches that are really good say, I'm going to do my best to work with the tools that he has. So if he can't process the information, I want to have success. He wants to have success. So I'm going to make it as easy as possible for him to have success.
Okay, so then if you do that, then what? And then what do you do next year?
No, next year you will see. First of all, you haven't finished the progress of what happened then when you did that.
Okay. Well, let's say that worked, the simplified process.
Right.
I mean,
then you slowly add in more.
Okay. So that's what.
Here, this was a big pet peeve of me.
But then the patience issue.
With
the NFL.
Well, that's the NFL. This not. He said there in that piece, the whole interview, he talked about how every case could be somewhat their own little case there.
Yeah.
So to me, if he shows improvement, that then you add. I'm gonna give you a good example.
So you think they added too much to begin with?
Yeah, I think that, and I said this before.
You did. I'm just
they thought he had already arrived.
Yeah.
They thought he was already that dude. Like he had all that done.
So they need to take stuff off the plate. Let him nibble a little bit on some, like peas and carrots. Then you add in some mashed potatoes. Then you add in, as long as he's eating his vegetables, then you add in something else.
What you want them to do is continue to run into a wall and say, it's going to work my way or the highway. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying that he is working on, is working through those progressions. Now, we don't know really the extent of, are they supplying him easy plays? Are they supplying him easy outs and he's not taking it? Well, so we don't know either way, one way or the other. Right. But I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just asking, I'm trying to get clarity on what you're saying to make.
You said it was a subliminal message.
I think what he's, and I'm not saying that. Okay, so let's break this down because so we're on the same page. Mm-hmm. I am saying those are the things that I think that he is working on Will Levis with. Those are what he thinks are Will Levis's issue, a Freudian slip, I guess you could say. Like what he is working on with Will Levis, he is using it as an example of all quarterbacks. That does not mean that I think that he should hit a wall and continue to do it. I just think that is what he is. What he's saying is that these are the issues with Will Levis that we're trying to fix. Now, the method or process to fix it, I don't really have a opinion one way or the other. I'm just saying I think that he gave us a little bit of insight into what he's trying to fix with Will Levis.
Right, and I think that's the same thing that all the coaches are doing there, and I think they're making a grave mistake there. I think just like the special team coach talking about, he puts a freaking tight end there. Name me a great tight end who was a great special team player.
I couldn't even name you a tight end before today that even played special teams.
To me, you're trying too hard to like fix an issue instead of just saying, hey, man, either you get it done or we put somebody else in there, and it won't be somebody who doesn't go down and tackle for a living. Tight ends don't tackle for a living. They block and they catch.
Yeah.
See, so now you're trying to make a guy do something who really that's not his skill set. That doesn't mean he can't do it, but that's not the skill set. So to me, coaches, if you want to have success, even with Will Levis, if he's having some form of issue with everything that's on his plate, now that the regular season, as I said before, all that preseason and all that talk and doing great and all that, doesn't mean a hill of beans until you get in live action. And I think that's what he's saying. Now that the season started, we're in live action. To your point, I think there's certain things that maybe he processes a little slower than he wants at this point in time. It's not that he's not all the way there. It's just that we need to push him a little bit. If not, then let's take something off his plate.
So let me ask you this. So it's a progression chain moving offense, like a progression read chain moving offense is what we have heard over and over about this team. So does it need to be like, what do they need to take off his plate off that, I guess? Like, basically maybe Lloyd Cushenberry needs to do.
So I said Cushenberry could maybe call some of the pass protection schemes. That's what I'm referencing.
Yeah.
Like maybe just, Okay, slow it down. He can get there. You know he has the wherewithal to do it all, but at this point in time, he's just not as quick as you want him to be.
And then we try again next year.
Well, there is no timeline.
Yeah.
What you do is this is why you're a coach.
But isn't there a timeline if he can't ever do it?
No, let me finish. Their timeline is as he shows progression, it's like anything else. All right, do you start riding a bike and the timeline is, you got to have it done at the end of the month if you started at the beginning of the month. The timeline is if you finally start showing confidence in riding the bike by yourself and me holding you, and then I let go, then I gradually give you more. So then the timeline is actually created naturally and not on a set date. So that's how you're supposed to gradually grow an actual athlete. That's how it's done. It's never done. It's this date or this date. Is then if he doesn't progress, then he's telling you he can't do it.
He can't ride a bike. A lot like Easton Freeze. He can't ride a bike.
So that's what I'm getting at. So once that ends, then you say, well, he made no progress. We're stuck here. This is probably time to move on to someone else. That tells you actually your timeline. Yeah. It's not going into next year. No, that will be done before that season's over. You already know because you should know by then.
I like it. We'll talk more about quarterbacks in the NFL when we have Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports and we go around the NFL with him on the next segment. I'm Zach. He's Blaine has been covered too on 104.5 The Zone.
Did you know Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? And they staff all their locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop, just so they can be ready when your emergency pops up out of nowhere. Have you ever noticed how hard it is to get a right now appointment for a vehicle repair? Some dealers can be more than 2 weeks out just to get a freaking appointment, but not Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without the dealer pricing since 1999. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff that fix your car right now. So if you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, then call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says, we will never be too busy for our customers. We're here to take the pain away, and we mean right freaking now. And Eurofix repairs all European cars. And Eurofix says yes to speedy repair when others can't or won't. Family owned for 24 years. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX. Or you can visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But all the time, Blaine said you.
Join 3HL this Thursday as we broadcast live from Buffalo Wild Wings in Murfreesboro for our next Titans football feast. Stop by for chances to win Titans tickets and giveaways each hour thanks to Miller Lite, Kroger, Buffalo Wild Wings. Plus, be a part of our weekly Miller Lite Wash Away Toast with Ron Slay at 5 p.m. For more info, visit 1045thezone.com/TFF. And with that, we go to the phones to talk to Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports. We're going to go around the NFL with him. And, man, I wish there was something to talk about, Jordan, but I guess we'll start off with this little old topic of Anthony Richardson finally getting benched by the Indianapolis Colts.
What's going on, my friends? Yeah, there's not much to talk about in the NFL these days, it feels like, right? There's no trade deadline looming. There's no quarterbacks getting benched. Well, let me tell you, I think that listen, you guys know me. I've been labeled as an Anthony Richardson detractor. But even I was a bit surprised to see that he has been sent to the bench at this point in the season. And I feel like this topic almost kind of has a little bit to do with a topic that we've touched on as people who cover the Titans with Will Levis. And the question that is how long do we give these young quarterbacks to develop before we ultimately come to a conclusion on what direction we should head in with the franchise? Anthony Richardson was someone who was drafted at number 4 overall, who didn't have an incredible college career, but he's someone who I describe as an NBA draft pick. And that's that you pick this young kid with incredible potential with the idea that you're going to develop him because his potential is so great that he can one day turn into the face of your franchise. But in order to do that, you have to give this kid the reps, the time, the ability to improve. And with what the Colts have seen so far, they're not feeling good about the direction of their franchise. Now they're sitting in second place in the AFC South. And what I'm looking at right now is that Jim Irsay wants to win right now. Mm-hmm. He likes some of the aspects of his team. And instead of developing the young quarterback that he drafted, again, with the goal in mind of developing, he's going to put Joe Flacco in right now because at this point in time, he's the better quarterback that can get you in the win column. So it was a very controversial decision. I understand why it happened. I'm not sure I agree with it. But it seems like we have some kind of quarterback issue with how we evaluate and how we develop them in the NFL.
Well, I mean, take into account, kind of parse through him tapping out. I mean, I've never seen a quarterback tap out like that. It's like it was insane. And then, that the leader of the offensive line, I assume, is their center, and he comes out and he is kind of, taken aback by the whole situation. The coach kind of talks about it too, like, how much of that, I mean, does it all come down to the fact that he may be a little immature because he's a little young and he hasn't had a lot of experience in college leading and being a leader, and maybe this is an instance of them getting too high on their supply last year and they should just started Gardner Minshew for as long as possible instead of, believing the hype and their own supply of Anthony Richardson is the man?
Yeah, in regards to every question you just asked there, I think the answer is yes. I will say, with Anthony Richardson and the whole him tapping out because he was tired, that clearly rubbed the locker room the wrong way. We have quotes from Shane Steichen. We have quotes from center Ryan Kelly saying they had a conversation about it. That's not our standard. And, I don't know if it was Zaire Franklin. I might be misspeaking, but there was a teammate who said, hey, maybe he should have just lied or go down and say that you're hurt. So
that's what Blaine said too.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think I would do in that situation. If we're being 100% serious, I'm not going to say, hey guys, I'm not well conditioned to play quarterback right now. I needed a playoff. So yeah, I think to your point, it was definitely a learning point. This kid is just 22 years old. He's not some media savant when he's talking to reporters. And I think it's even fair to speculate, did this have something to do with the decision that was made? We all understand that Anthony Richardson has not been playing very good football, but I thought it was very notable seeing the response from his head coach and his offensive lineman with that play specifically.
I thought it was interesting. Of course, Deontay Johnson got traded to the Ravens yesterday. It was a 6th-round pick that got upgraded to a 5th-round pick in return for the Panthers. But apparently 3 teams were interested, and that was the best offer. What are the other teams? To me, that's a really terrible offer for Deontay Johnson. But, the other 2 teams, I would assume maybe one of them is the Steelers. But, what are people thinking that they couldn't beat that offer? Like that was the best offer?
Terrible. Objectively terrible. I think that with all the wide receiver movement that we've seen so far in October, Deontay Johnson was arguably the number one trade candidate for wide receivers that teams should have been after. And yeah, I would imagine that a handful of teams were inquiring about his services. So when he shipped off to Baltimore for a projected 15 spots moved up on the draft chart, like that's mind-blowing to me. I had a Panthers fan text me yesterday saying, "Didn't we just clean house?" And I said, "Brother, your house is sparkling clean, okay?" It's ridiculous that this deal came forward, in my opinion. I think that the 49ers should have been involved in potentially picking up Deontay Johnson. I think there's multiple teams that were probably in the market for a wide receiver. Maybe not the Steelers since they just traded him away, but regardless, Deontay absolutely should have been near the top of candidates that are being at least talked about in inner circles with the NFL. I don't think that the Carolina Panthers got anything close to what they should have for his services.
I agree. That is just, it's incredible. It's just insane that trade went down. Of course, there's a lot of other trades. We'll get to those, but we're talking to Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports here on Cover 2 with Blaine and Zach.
Yes, Jordan, man, thanks for coming on. First and foremost, man, we see a lot of wide receivers getting traded. Why do you think that is? Or is there no reason?
Yeah, I think wide receivers is obviously a premier position in the NFL. And when we're talking about either young or old players that are on expiring deals that play for teams with losing records, those are going to be tradable assets. You know, when we're talking about NFL general managers of contending teams looking to upgrade their rosters. So we saw, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs do that with DeAndre Hopkins. We saw the Baltimore Ravens do that with Deontay Johnson. And their offenses immediately got better. Now, I will say that, of course, the draft compensation is not going to be up to the standards of what those fan bases are expecting. We all know that DeAndre Hopkins is worth more to a team than the pick that he was traded to Tennessee for. But the fact of the matter is that some of these teams that are not contending for a playoff spot, not contending for a Lombardi trophy, it is relatively, and I say relatively emphatically, smart for them to part ways with assets that will likely be gone from the franchise a year from now for some level of draft capital. But it really boils down to the wide receiver being somewhat of a position of value, and that's what contenders are after, especially with some of the injuries around the league, whether that be Rashee Rice or Brandon Ayuk.
Well, I have to ask you about some other quarterbacks. I don't know if you watched the games, but how did Jameis Winston look for the Browns, as well as, are we seeing the end of Aaron Rodgers?
Well, Jameis Winston all of a sudden is in the MVP race. Let me tell you. I mean, he sparked the Browns' offense like nothing. The Browns scored 20 points for the first time all year.
Oh, wow.
Upset the Baltimore Ravens, who appear to be one of the best teams in the NFL. 334 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. I think he had at least 5 completions of 15 air yards in that one game. I think Deshaun Watson had only 7 or 8 all season. So Jameis Winston did what many Browns fans were speculating he could do. Come in and spark that team on both sides of the ball. This was the first victory for the Browns at home as well. So, I mean, I don't know if the Browns are any kind of secret contender. I'm certainly not making that point. But with Jameis Winston under center, he's someone who can absolutely elevate that passing game. But I also have to mention, he probably threw 5 or 6 passes that could have been intercepted. And in a 5-point game, we know that could have gone really either way. But the bottom line is Jameis Winston got the job done. He led a game-winning drive with volunteer legend Cedric Tillman scoring that game-winning touchdown as well. So Jameis Winston has always been one of my favorite players in the NFL. I'm excited to see what he can do moving forward just with that gunslinger mentality. Now, as for Aaron Rodgers, real quickly, yeah, you asked me a couple weeks ago, is Aaron Rodgers capable of playing some pretty good football? I said yes, but now sitting here at 2-6, it seems like those chances of making any kind of run are slim. Now, they do have a great chance on a short week to face the Houston Texans team that is now down their top 2 wide receivers. Vegas has them as the Jets as favorites in this matchup, and I think I'm actually going to take them as well because it's either now or never for this New York team. The defense hasn't lived up to expectations. We know the offense hasn't lived up to expectations. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers can get the job done in prime time.
Well, Collins will still be out and Diggs out. You still think the Texans are going to be still for the taking for the AFC South?
Yeah, who knows? What if Joe Flacco comes in and all of a sudden sparks the offense? I thought Joe Flacco looked pretty solid with his 2 starts and his 3 full games with the Colts this season. But I still like the Texans as the favorite, but there's no doubt that there are definitely some question marks with this team. We talked about last week the road struggles that C.J. Stroud has had through his young career, but also now, you take Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs out of the lineup. That's really, really big for this offense, and the defense is not considered to be one of the best in the NFL either. So according to ESPN, the Texans are actually perusing the trade market, seeing if they can bring in someone like a Darius Slayton or KJ Osborne or Kendrick Bourne to replace some of the production that Stephon Diggs had. But we know that the Texans were a very different team without Nico Collins in the lineup. Thankfully for them, he's going to return at some point in the season. But now you take Stephon Diggs away too. He was the leading receiver for Houston in 3 out of the last 4 games. So, yeah, I like Tank Dell. I like Xavier Hutchinson. Robert Woods is there. John Mechie's there. But this Texans passing attack is definitely going to take a hit in the near future.
There you have it. NFL writer for CBS Sports, Jordan Dajani.
Earlier today, Gerard Mayo was talking about the Tennessee Titans, and he says they're in a similar situation as us. Good players, good scheme, just haven't been able to put it together. You're around here in Nashville. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think that actually does translate to what the Titans are going through as well?
Well, I love that quote. I kind of giggled a bit because he's saying, we are good, but we're not good at the same time, right? Like, we're just not getting the job done. With the Titans, it's tough. Even when it seemed like they were keeping pace with the Lions in the first half of that matchup, you knew that a collapse was coming. There wasn't enough production on the offensive side of the ball, and whenever that happens, it's going to put more stress on your defense, which I think is exactly what happened. But then there was the issue of the special teams. Jared Goff didn't even cross 100 yards passing when Khalif Raymond was running roughshod all over your special teams unit, which certainly played a factor in that. I think with the Titans moving forward, what I'm really, excited for is Will Levis's return to the lineup. He's had his reset. Hopefully he's healthy now. We know that this season is really about his development and him showing us what he's capable of. And I have reason to believe, I think people should be cautiously optimistic that he can at least improve with the remainder of his starts throughout the regular season. I think we've talked about on your show that Will Levis, in my opinion, he's looked worse than he did in his rookie season with this new offense and a new offensive-minded head coach, which is pretty jarring because there were some high expectations for him. So now is his opportunity to rewrite that script, not turn the ball over, have some more of an internal clock, go through your progression, more comfortable in the offense. That's what I'm going to be looking for from the Tennessee Titans through the second half of the regular season.
Okay, we talked about it a few weeks ago. I hope everybody placed their bets for Jaden Daniels as MVP. Jaden Daniels, electric win, injured all week, barely practiced and still came in and won at the very end. Is Jaden Daniels the front runner for MVP? Maybe he's not, maybe he is. But is Jaden Daniels the best quarterback in his division?
I think he is. If I'm starting a franchise right now and you're giving me Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, or Jaden Daniels, I'm probably going to take Jaden Daniels. I know I put together the stats, and he leads Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott when it comes to passer rating, when it comes to yards per attempt. He also has fewer interceptions than those quarterbacks as well. And one thing about Jaden Daniels is, like Jalen Hurts, he's this dual-threat athlete. We understand that. But his ability to escape pressure in the pocket while keeping his eyes downfield and delivering is pretty incredible. And, we've been talking about it on your show for a bit. Jaden Daniels has been wildly impressive, but I think Sunday solidified the fact that he is special. Washington fans have to feel like the drafting of him was divine intervention. Most people thought that he wasn't even going to suit up to face Caleb Williams and the Bears, who have a very good defense. But he shows up, he throws for 300 yards and throws this magical 52-yard game-winning Hail Mary in front of his home fans to defeat the quarterback that heard his name called before his name on draft day. That's special. So I think Jaden Daniels has an incredibly high ceiling. I still have some concerns about his health and his ability to stay healthy and shake off some of those injuries. But there's no doubt that this guy has been wildly impressive.
The Cincinnati Bengals are 3-5. and they are currently the odds are plus 128 betting odds for them to make the playoffs. They have a pretty good looking schedule. Can the Cincinnati Bengals sneak into the playoffs?
Yeah, it was interesting looking at Slim Shady at his press conference talking about, hey, I think 10 wins can usually get you in, and they're sitting there with 3-5 record. But so I went back and I started looking at their schedule, and to your point, I do think it is doable for a second half run for the Bengals. I mean, they have the Raiders coming up this week, which is a great opportunity to get back in the win column. But then they face the Ravens that next week, and they also have a couple matchups with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a great defense as well.
Okay.
So, are you guys still there? Do I have you?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I accidentally left off a button.
All good. But I went to our Sportsline data scientist, Stephen O., who puts together some calculations, and he has the Bengals making the playoffs at a 19.8% chance. So that's pretty low. He sees the Bengals going maybe 500 or a game above 500 to finish out the year. The bottom line is that if the Bengals want to make the playoffs, that defense is going to have to perform better. I thought their matchup against the Eagles was a pretty fascinating game because they turned the ball over a couple times, but they only committed one penalty. And I thought that, there were some questionable decisions made by Zach Taylor down the stretch. But the Bengals are going to have to play better on both sides of the ball. But looking at that schedule, I absolutely think there's a chance.
Well, before we let you go, man, I got to ask you how you feeling on the Kentucky-Tennessee game here coming up this weekend.
Blowout coming, baby. Blowout coming. I'm excited for it. Tennessee, man, it was awesome for them to get back on track against Alabama. I want the offense to look better, man. I have such high hopes and high aspirations for this offense. I want them to look like they did at the beginning of the season when I was crushing beers in Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, watching them crush the NC State Wolfpack. That's what I think the Tennessee offense is capable of. And against this Kentucky team, that's what I'm hoping to see. So there's a lot of talk about the 12-team playoff in Tennessee. How many games can they afford to lose? I'm keeping my sights set on this weekend and this weekend only. Let's take care of business and let's see what happens around the league.
Final score? What you got?
Let's go 38-14.
One last question. I know we said that was the last question. Deion Sanders has been saying that they're willing to pull in Eli, and they're basically the two teams that I have heard repeated over Cleveland and Carolina. Do you think that we are if those two guys, can we really see an Eli kind of deal with Deion Sanders? Because really, if they come out and say they don't want to play for them, you'd be kind of silly to draft them, right? To draft a player that didn't want to play for you anyway.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely silly. But, I mean, with Deion Sanders, he does a lot of things that I really respect and some other things that, I kind of question, if you will, if I'm putting it politely. He already doesn't like CBS, so I can't really say much on the airwaves with you guys. But I will say I absolutely think with a character like this guy, it's absolutely possible. I think that Deion has never really shied away from trying to use his influence and putting things out in the media. He loves remaining in headlines. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but if you're asking me, is it possible? I think you objectively have to say yes, but I can't wait to see what happens with his son. I mean, that's clearly a talented football player. What is Deion's long-term aspirations in being the head coach at Colorado as well? That's going to be a super fascinating storyline to follow this offseason.
It will be interesting. We appreciate that. It's Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports joining us weekly for taking us around the NFL to let us know what all is going on. We appreciate it, Jordan.
Thanks, all right, you guys are the best. Thank you.
When we come up, we're going to revisit the high school guardian caps topic from earlier in the show because we actually have Sammy, who I conveniently forgot, our producer. She covers high school football, so she has some thoughts and has some information for us on that. And again, the F&M Bank chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live, they're back, baby. They are in there talking about Shadur Sanders all dang day, talking about Shadur Sanders. So we're back. The chat is back, and I love to see it. When we come back, we'll touch all that and close out the show. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons.
Hey.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. And earlier we had a phone call and we were asked about guardian caps in high school, and we had no clue what we were talking about or what he was referencing. And lo and behold, of course, we both forget that our producer, Sammy, she covers a lot of the high school football around the area. She could have just interrupted us. We would have allowed a little bit of interruption for her to call in. But we're going to let her tell us what's going on in Tennessee high school football and guardian cap. So we're tossing it to Sammy.
I was the first one to have you on, Sammy, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were the very first one to have me on.
I would
no.
have to be the first or something.
I just didn't want to interrupt you guys. It's my first week producing the show, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
Doing a great job.
I love covering high school football around the area. Third season, I was the host and sideline for the game of the week, and I talked to quite a few of the head coaches around the Nashville area. It was probably a few weeks ago, actually. And Trey Perry, head coach of Mount Juliet, Coach T, he said that he has a few players that have personally bought the Guardian cap, and right now there's a rule that they can't wear it actually on game night. So he said if that rule were to change, then he would purchase it for his entire team. There are a few schools, though, around the area that have purchased it for their entire team. CPA, I know that they have them for the entire team. Riverdale at one point had them for their entire team, but some of the snaps broke, and so since they can't wear them on game days, it's just something that they haven't been able to replace and fix. So Riverdale does not have them anymore, but Wilson Central is another school that has them. I know a lot of coaches, it seems like the sentiment is if they became where you can wear them on game night, they would wear them. I talked to Oakland as well. Kevin Creasy, they do not wear them. Josh Crouch at Green Hill, they do not. So right now it's mainly just on the players. If you want to personally buy them, which they run about $70 to $120, just depends on which one you get.
Just for practice?
Yeah, and you can only wear it for practice.
So why are they not allowed to wear them? Is it just something that hasn't been brought forth the sports commission or whatever?
Yeah, no, I think it kind of depends on where you are, too, because I looked up something, and it looks like the NFHS is trying to get it to where the high schoolers can play with them on game night, but I think it's really just dependent on state. So I think it really boils down to TSSAA.
Gotcha.
But right now it looks like it's more per state.
It's interesting. I would think that if it was brought up in front of the TSAA, or however their voting process goes, that they would end up passing it. I mean, it'd be hard to turn that down, right? To deny if it was brought up in a motion or brought up as a rule or whatever. Wouldn't it be hard? I mean, wouldn't you think, Sammy, that they would automatically approve it?
Oh, I think they would, for sure. I mean, right now, though, it's where the fun's going to go because you have a lot of teams that are going from the grass fields to the turf fields. And while we're talking player safety, and that should be at the forefront of the conversation, there's a lot of money going in a lot of different places right now across Tennessee schools. So I think that's more so the issue is where are we going to find the funds for this? Because, like I said, with Riverdale, they had a lot of snaps break.
Yeah. And
so it's something that you're probably going to have to replace pretty frequently as well. So I think that's more so is how would we fund this?
Gotcha. That's interesting. That's interesting. I didn't know that was going on currently. And listen, I understand guardian caps are ugly, but sometimes the ugliest stuff is the stuff that protects you, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think, funding for safety issues here. And it could be that they're just trying to wait and see how this all plays out in the National Football League since they were the ones that first to really get this all revving going. And you see how many players actually aren't wearing them in game. I think only the Titans have one player wearing it in the game, right? Wiley,
Jonathan Taylor's wearing it in the game.
No, I meant for the Titans.
Yeah, I think there's one more guy wearing it for the Titans, but I cannot for the life of me think of who it is. Maybe I'm just making that up, but...
It seems like, it sure would be safe at least to wear them in practice, even though the games are actually a lot more physical and violent, especially at the top level for the NFL. So we're interested to see where this goes from here, at least at the high school level. I'm really interested.
Yeah, I think for the most part that's something they can, work on and stuff. Right now, just to kind of give people update on stuff that's going on at practice, there's a couple of videos surfacing from, A to Z, PK, all these guys, practice videos. Will Levis is throwing the ball.
Ooh,
he is ahead in drills of Mason Rudolph, so he is getting some reps with the ones. So we'll see how he feels tomorrow, right? Like, I guess that's the big thing. Maybe he's a limited participant today or full participant tomorrow or vice versa. It'll be interesting to see how that carries over. But I think
so excited.
Well, I mean, I am excited to watch Will Levis because I am not emotionally bothered anymore by Will Levis. He can't hurt me, Blaine. He can't hurt me anymore. And I'm just going to enjoy, like I said yesterday, the roller coaster that is the Will Levis experience. It would be a fantastic Universal Studios ride, the ups and downs and twists and turns of him throwing footballs and all that stuff. But, you know, the bad man can't hurt me anymore, Blaine. So I'm just going to enjoy it. Just going to ride the wave, and wherever it takes me, wherever the undertow pulls me in whatever direction, that's where I'm going.
Well, we have to say this, we covering Tennessee in the Vols. Mark Stoops, open coaches teleconference, complaining about the SEC, about Kentucky playing another night game.
He's a big complainer. For a guy that I thought was a pretty dang good head coach for a while. These last few years have really brought out the worst in Mark Stoops. You know, he was complaining about NIL.
I know.
And now he's complaining about night games and primetime games. That's kind of crazy.
I thought he was hardcore.
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting.
You're trying to pump up your university. You get a night game. That's kind of like, ooh, yeah,
that's a
let's
good
get
thing.
ready.
That's a good thing for recruits, right? Like, obviously, there's going to be recruits at that game. I guess he's just, doesn't want to have that many eyeballs on his team getting whipped, maybe.
Oh, is that what you're predicting now?
I don't know. We'll talk about that tomorrow because we haven't talked about University of Tennessee football because they didn't play last week. So we're going to have a show tomorrow where we talk about the University of Tennessee. Just real quick, we're going to go to Dalton, who wants to talk about Guardian Caps. Dalton, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Dalton Connect.
Dawson, I'm sorry.
Oh, Dawson.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Going good. How are you?
Good. About the Guardian Caps, we actually wore them in high school at Wilson Central. That was in 2019 during practice.
Wow.
We weren't allowed to wear them in the games. So they have been around a lot longer, I feel like, than just the NFL wearing them this year.
Yeah.
But, just you guys have a good day, and I just want to
How many kids wore them at practice? I mean, like, was it?
I want to say our whole team had them. That was back when Coach Dedman was coaching at Wilson Central, and we had them. So, I mean, that was 6 years ago.
Oh, well,
Gotcha.
19 was.
That's crazy. I didn't know they'd been around that long. Thanks, Dawson, for that insight. And I didn't know that was going to be around that long. But guess what? 3HL's up next. We're running out of time. That was a quick show. It felt like it went by quick. And we didn't even get to some of the other conversations surrounding Will Levis and the quarterback, but we'll do that tomorrow. We'll also, preview a little bit of University of Tennessee and Kentucky. We'll have all kinds of stuff planned for you tomorrow. But coming up next is 3HL. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.